Hello, thank you so much for joining us here on News 8. I'm Netta Iranpour, and at CBS 8, we're working for you. We are listening to your concerns, investigating your questions, and finding solutions that matter in our community. We want to start with the latest scheme that's putting many people at risk. A big heads up here, there's a new texting scam that's making the rounds, and even a few of us here at News 8 have received it, including our reporter Alex Lai. Working for you, she found an expert to show us what to all look out for and how this scam works.
I received this text 2 days ago. It's an image claiming to be a final notice of a court enforcement action with a California seal and a QR code. Now we're working for you to find out how this scam works and how to avoid it. It's a new scam on the rise, saying you must scan a QR code to pay for a traffic violation or appear at a scheduled court hearing. But there are several red flags that show this is a scam. Working for you, I spoke with Nicholas Behar, adjunct professor of cybersecurity at the University of San Diego, to break it down. First, it's sent as an image. Real court notices are not texted, and it asks for immediate action.
Whenever these scams come out, they play on folks' emotions, right? So they're going to say, hey, you have this ticket. If you don't pay it, XYZ is going to happen.
It also shows mismatched details. One text claims Los Angeles, even though we're here in San Diego. Another says California, but lists St. Louis, Missouri. The California courts say they will never ask for payment by text, phone, or email. You should never click on links or scan codes that seem suspicious. But since Nicholas is a cybersecurity expert, he went ahead and scanned the code to show us what happens next in the scam. The link took him to a suspicious website not connected to any government agency.
Probiotics, immunity.com. Kind of weird, right? Not related to a ticket at all.
The next page says it is Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, even though it is a California ticket, and the code violations don't match.
The code that they're citing is completely different, right? And then here they're saying violation, and the email is failure to pay electronic toll evasion.
It then goes on to ask for his billing and credit card information. Nicholas says scams like this are evolving and getting harder to spot with the use of AI.
Before we used to say, hey, go ahead and check for grammatical errors, spelling errors, but AI now takes care of that for them. So they feed it into the AI and all of a sudden they have perfect English, right? There's no more grammatical mistakes to look for. All of a sudden the images look a lot more real.
So the bottom line, look out for red flags. Don't click or scan anything that looks suspicious. And when in doubt, contact the agency directly. Working for you, Alex Lai, News 8.
I get the actual number to the place that you may need to contact. Chula Vista has a new law on the books limiting the city's cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. Now, this is called the Safe Neighborhood Ordinance. It bars city resources from being used on immigration actions without a signed judicial warrant. News 8's Richard Allen working for you and explains this ordinance and why the mayor did not sign it.
Well, that's right. The Safe Neighbor Ordinance here in Chula Vista passed the City Council by a 4-0 vote last month. Now, it was signed into the city's code today by Deputy Mayor Cesar Fernandez after Mayor John McCann recused himself from the vote. With the stroke of a pen, Deputy Mayor Cesar Fernandez officially signs off on this Safe Neighbor Ordinance.
And this moment belongs to the people who refused to stay silent when silence would have been easier.
Supporters say this demonstrates Chula Vista's commitment to the community's safety and also pledges not to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement.
Our city facilities should not be used to support immigration enforcement in ways that create fear, violate rights, or undermine trust in local government.
Under this ordinance, city staff is forbidden to grant federal or out-of-state law enforcement access to non-public areas of city facilities without a warrant or court order. It also bars the city from sharing information about immigration status and restricts participation in joint law enforcement operations centered around immigration enforcement.
And it says that when these interactions happen, the public deserves transparency and accountability.
This is not hypothetical. Our community has already witnessed these tactics here at home.
City Council member Carolina Chavez, who introduced this ordinance, pointed to last year's ICE raid at Buena Forqueta restaurant in San Diego, as well as other federal immigration actions, like the arrest of a parent by ICE agents outside Camarena Elementary School last August.
It leaves the community with trauma that will follow them for the rest of their lives.
Chula Vista resident Sarah Ochoa is mom to a transitional kindergarten student.
I'm worried when I'm dropping her off or picking her up every day, what might happen, what she might witness, the trauma to families that are her classmates. I worry about this every day.
Absent from Monday's signing, Mayor John McCann, which Deputy Mayor Fernandez called out.
He declined to stand up in this moment for the many residents in our city who are living with fear and uncertainty.
Mayor McCann had earlier recused himself from discussing or voting on this ordinance, citing his position as a U.S. Navy Reserve officer.
As an officer in the United States Navy, I am unable to participate in an item that would specifically inhibit or oppose federal law. Therefore, I will be recusing myself.
Neighbors in Ocean Beach say a group of vans has been parked on their street for weeks now, ignoring the city's 72-hour parking law. They have filed multiple complaints through the Get It Done app with no response there, they say. News 8's Alex Cheney working for you and looked into what the city is doing about this.
Imagine coming home to this. Loud music all night, animals running around, and a general bad attitude.
All different walks of life.
Michelle and his wife Jordana say it's the reality for them and their neighbors in Ocean Beach.
I get up at 4 a.m. and I don't get to bed now till like 11, 12 because I can't sleep with all this noise.
They first noticed the vans in the area back on April 1st, and now they've been taking up the parking spots right in front of their house starting on Sunday, April 19th, and haven't moved since.
There's people that pay rent here, and we can't even park in front of our own houses because there's all these vans and people doing, who knows what in front of our houses.
One woman who lives a couple doors down said she's been threatened by the men living in the vans.
You look like someone I should punch in the face, other vulgarities. And I stopped and I kind of turned around and I said, really? Like a woman? You're going to punch a woman in the face? And he goes, yeah, the next time I see you, I'm going to punch you in the face.
I spoke to the San Diego Police Department today about this. They sent us a lengthy statement about how enforcement is supposed to work, but did not specifically address the complaints of the residents we spoke to. SDPD said if a vehicle moves even one block and comes back, they're not in violation of the 72-hour rule anymore. They say officers will make a chalk mark on the vehicle's tire to see if it's moved within the 72-hour window. Meanwhile, residents want the city to do more and protect their neighborhood.
It's just not fair. We live here, we pay taxes here, we try and be part of this community, and we can't park here in front of our own house.
The San Diego Police Department encouraging people in the community to send in their requests for service through that Get It Done app and then contact the Western Division Community Resource Officer who patrols parking on a weekly basis in that area. By the way, that was Alex Cheney reporting. We are nearing the June primary, but we already know some of the big storylines that will be coming up here in November. Up next, what you need to know about a new voter ID ballot measure. Plus, picking the right sunscreen. It's essential for the environment. We're helping you pick the right one for your skin and the sea. Welcome back. California voters will head to the polls this November to decide if showing an ID should be part of casting a ballot. The ballot measure from San Diego Assemblymember Carl DeMaio would write voter ID into the state constitution, covering both in-person and mail-in voting. Here's News 8's Richard Allen working for you to explain both sides to this.
It's not a partisan issue. It's just good government.
Republican Assemblymember Carl DeMaio is leading the charge for this voter ID measure, which secured more than 962,000 valid signatures to qualify for the November ballot.
I believe that this initiative will restore public trust and confidence, and we'll actually see more participation in elections as a result.
But opponents fiercely contest that prediction.
Because it's really just a Trumpist policy to suppress voters and try to maintain power being imported into California. It's like the SAVE Act light for California.
Brittany Stonecipher with Common Cause California points out that California already verifies voters' eligibility at the time they register.
And cross-reference them with the DMV database and Social Security Administration. So really they're just requiring people to double show their ID when they've already done it when they registered.
Opponents also say requiring ID to cast a ballot will disproportionately impact voters who already face barriers. Jenny Farrell is executive director of the League of Women Voters of California.
Communities of color, voters with disabilities, seniors, and low-income voters are all less likely to have the required documentation readily available.
She also says that this measure addresses a problem, widespread voter fraud, that does not exist.
You're more likely to be struck by lightning in the United States than you are to commit voter fraud in an election in the United States. So, why are we putting our voters through new burdensome procedures? Why are we charging our taxpayers more money to erect these new procedures when we don't have any problem that they're addressing?
DeMaio also points out this measure will preserve mail-in voting, requiring voters to include a personalized 4-digit PIN from a government document like a driver's license or social security card on the outside of the ballot envelope. Opponents say this would expose voters to potential identity theft.
And if people don't want to use one of the government IDs that they have, like a driver's license, a passport, or social security number, they can actually request a free voter ID under our initiative as well.
And that's Richard Allen reporting. A recent poll by the Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies finds voters at this point are nearly evenly split on this issue. 44% surveyed were in favor of the measure, while 45% were opposed, with 12% undecided. What you put on your skin, it could be harming coral reefs. Each year, an estimated 5,000 tons of sunscreen washes into the ocean. You put it on, you get in the water. Well, some of this contains chemicals that are toxic to all of that beautiful coral. Coral reefs support nearly a quarter of all marine life, and they protect coastlines from things like erosion. But they are dying at an alarming rate. San Diego doesn't have coral reefs here. The closest to us would be in Baja, in the Sea of Cortez. But sunscreen that gets in the water here just adds to the damage all around. We recently heard from the nonprofit Wild Coast. They're working to protect our coastlines.
Safe is not necessarily an approved label. So what you really need to do in your sunscreens is check the active ingredients. Look out for non-nano on the label.
Wild Coast says, listen to this, mineral sunscreens with zinc oxide and titanium dioxide are safer options for your skin and for the sea to protect the coral reefs. Look for mineral only if you can. Up next, an uptick in rattlesnake encounters right here in San Diego. What's different this year and when people will actually need that anti-venom? Welcome back. Have you seen these lately? These blue sea creatures, they're known as by-the-wind sailors, also known as valellas. They're washing up along California's coast. This video is actually from the Bay Area. These creatures generally appear on our coast at this time of year. I've seen a lot of them in the La Jolla area. National Park Service says they float on the ocean surface and they get pushed ashore by strong winds, where they then dry out quickly. It actually looks like they have little sails on them on the water. They're related to the Portuguese man-o'-war, and while they do have some stinging tentacles, they're generally not harmful to humans, but it's best not to touch them. A warm spring is bringing out more rattlesnakes in San Diego County. So if you're spending time outdoors, it is certainly something to be on the lookout for, listen for too. News 8's Steffi Roche talked to a San Diego woman who has a warning for people after she was bitten by a snake recently.
We've got strawberries and mint.
Diane DeStefano's University City backyard is her sanctuary.
Bougainvillea are my favorite.
But about 10 days ago,
I'm just reaching around, pulling up a milkweed, and I couldn't see my hand because I was doing it from here.
It was then that she felt a sharp pinch in her hand.
And I noticed these two wounds that had started to get kind of a bluish red color and were raised.
She quickly went to the ER at Kaiser Claremont Mesa Hospital for treatment and monitoring. DeStefano believes she was bitten by a young rattlesnake.
The puncture wounds were not very far apart, and so, it's kind of like process of elimination.
She says it's believed that she only sustained a dry bite due to less severe symptoms. While it was at the ready, she was told she didn't need anti-venom, the definitive treatment for venomous snake bites. Dr. William Wu, the assistant chief of family medicine at Kaiser Permanente in Orange County, tells me this can occur in roughly 25% of cases.
We're looking for tissue damage, bruising, bleeding, spreading of these signs, and even changes in blood work.
If a patient has a bite and they don't see those symptoms outside of the puncture, then it's deemed a dry bite, and the antivenom is not necessary. But it can be a costly treatment. In 2024, CBS News reported that a San Diego toddler's life was saved after 30 vials of antivenom were used after a rattlesnake bite. But that family was reportedly billed over $200,000.
Knowing that a quarter of them don't even need antivenom is important, because the antivenom can cost between about $2,000 to $5,500 per vial. And I start with 4 to 10 vials of antivenom, depending on which one you're using.
That's Dr. Richard Clark, the director of toxicology at UCSD Medical Center. There's several reasons for the cost of antivenom being so high, including high manufacturing complexity and limited market demand. For DeStefano, she's one lucky gardener. But everything certainly isn't coming up roses quite yet.
The doctor told me it suffered a trauma, my hand. It'll be a while maybe before some of this stuff goes away.
Just glad she's okay. Coming up here, a new tax on California's billionaires. What's likely heading to the ballot and the work that's happening behind the scenes. Welcome back. A wealth tax targeting California's billionaires likely headed to the November ballot. Supporters have turned in signatures, but some big names in Silicon Valley are already preparing to spend heavily to stop this. Jenny Hutt working for you and explains the fight about this.
It's a measure Governor Newsom has already fiercely opposed, yet some members of the state legislature, as well as candidates for governor, are in support of this one-time tax on billionaires.
That we have collected over 1.5 million signatures.
Over 1.5 million voter signatures of support for a proposed one-time 5% tax on California's over 200 billionaires, meaning this ballot initiative will likely qualify to be on the November 2026 ballot. The major announcement on Monday morning by the measure proponent, healthcare union SEIU-UHW.
Longer emergency room wait times, fewer healthcare workers, rural hospitals shutting down.
Supporters warning that's the looming threat facing California with a $100 billion funding cut to healthcare programs from the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Proponents say taxing billionaires on their net worth would make up for that by raising $100 billion over the next 5 years.
Can afford to invest a little more in keeping California running.
Now it's a battle for the minds of voters as opposition ramps up.
It's already done damage, even though it hasn't officially qualified yet.
The primary concern of opponents that the target billionaires would simply leave California, which David Lesperance, an advisor to ultra-high net worth clients throughout California, says has happened. Lesperance says 8 of his clients have left for Florida, Texas, and Nevada, and 10 are preparing to leave.
They're doing everything they can to fight the fire,
which includes lobbying and supporting opposition efforts, Lesperance says.
When businesses leave California, thousands of good-paying jobs disappear, paychecks shrink, communities suffer.
Roger Salazar is with Golden State Promise, a political action committee created to oppose the wealth tax. To date, the PAC has raised $10 million from 2 major donors, from tech company Ripple Labs and billionaire Chris Larson, co-founder of Ripple, per state campaign filing records.
We're ready with an 8-figure statewide communications effort to educate voters.
Another opposition group is Stop the Squeeze, a PAC created after Governor Gavin Newsom spoke out against the wealth tax. And there are 3 ballot initiatives interpreted by many as countermeasures to the billionaires tax. They would mandate portions of any new tax revenue go to schools and ban taxes on wealth rather than income, essentially aiming to limit how California can implement new taxes.
The concept of a wealth tax is an idea that's not ready for prime time.
A lot to track here as both supporters and opponents of the billionaires tax are expected to spend more dollars to sway voters. Final decisions about placing the measure on the November ballot will be made by June 25th. Jenny Hutt, News 8.
And now we're working for your wallet. Attorney General Rob Bonta sounding the alarm on Olympic ticket scams. Fake tickets for the 2028 LA Games are already popping up online, targeting eager fans. Everyone wants the ticket, right? The AG says stick to authorized sellers. Double check those websites and then steer clear of deals that just seem too good to be true. We know these tickets are pretty costly. Experts also warn against using payment apps or gift cards, which can make it harder to get your money back. If you think you've been scammed, you'll want to report it immediately. We don't want that to happen to you. But good luck getting those tickets to the Olympics. Quite an experience to get to go check it out. And that is going to do it for us here. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Netta Irampour. And if there's anything you want us to look into, here's the email to contact us, workingforyou@cbs8.com. Hope you have a wonderful day.